What could turn a massive Russian armored assault with dozens of tanks and missiles into a blazing graveyard in just hours? At Ukraine's Kuracov field, Moscow launched its biggest strike since 2022. But instead of victory, they faced a catastrophic defeat. How could a smaller force, backed by Western technology, turn the tide against Russia's steel storm? Let's uncover the secrets behind the battle that reshaped modern warfare, a tale of satellites, drones, and precision strikes that left the Kremlin reeling. Don't miss out. Comment #1 after watching the video, because what you're about to see will blow your mind. On July 2, 2025, despite warnings from the US, Russia launched over 50 heavy missiles and a swarm of armored beasts consisting of 24 T-90M tanks, 18 T-80 BVM tanks, and 9 Terminator support vehicles into Ukraine's eastern flank in under 30 minutes, shaking the ground with 90 separate explosions. In just 6 brutal hours, Ukraine's defense systems were shattered, inflicting heavy losses on Ukraine. From above, Lancet drones dove at 100 miles per hour, hunting artillery like guided wolves. But the US was enraged. The unthinkable happened. Instead of a triumphant advance, Russia's assault was halted. 9 T-90M tanks were destroyed. 7 Terminator vehicles were taken out by drones. 15 BMPs were abandoned in panic, and nearly 300 Russian soldiers were killed or wounded on the fields they thought they'd conquer. So what turned this iron spearhead into a smoky graveyard of wreckage? What invisible hand transformed Moscow's largest assault since 2022 into a horrific lesson written in steel and fire? Let's find out. Because once you see it, you may never view modern warfare the same way again. At exactly 4:17 a.m. local time on July 2, 2025, the fields around Kuracov and Donetsk shook with Russian missile explosions. Without waiting for further diplomatic signals or warnings from NATO, the Kremlin unleashed its might. Tornado-S missile systems, each capable of firing 12 rockets with 800-pound cluster warheads, hammered relentlessly in salvos. In the first 30 minutes alone, over 50 heavy missiles rained down on Ukraine's trenches, command posts, and logistics depots. The ground trembled with over 80 separate explosions, shattering bunkers and incinerating fuel convoys. In the air, Lancet 3 suicide drones streaked relentlessly their AI-guided circuits, slamming into Ukrainian radar stations, destroying several M777 howitzers and 2 counter-battery radar units within minutes. Meanwhile, Orlan 10 reconnaissance drones mapped every Ukrainian fallback position, relaying data in real time across the border to Russian fire control centers. Next came the armored wave. 57 armored vehicles, including 24 T-90M tanks, 18 T-80 BVM tanks, and 6 Terminator support vehicles, surged southward. Infantry fighting vehicles with assault teams followed, closely poised to exploit gaps created by the missile barrage. Thermal cameras on the T-90Ms scanned through burning hedgerows, hunting for fleeing Ukrainian soldiers. By sunrise, Russian spearheads had penetrated 3 miles of defenses. The toll on Ukraine was immediate and horrific. Preliminary reports from the scene indicated over 30 Ukrainian soldiers killed and 90 others wounded, many pulled from the smoldering rubble of bunkers still burning with traces of white phosphorus. Drone footage later revealed at least 9 armored vehicles destroyed, including 4 Leopard 2A6 tanks caught refueling and 5 troop carriers damaged beneath fallen trees. Grain silos and farm fuel depots, once supplying food and fuel to eastern Ukraine, were reduced to charred, blackened skeletons spewing dark smoke into the summer sky. Cluster bombs struck power stations, cutting electricity to tens of thousands in the Donetsk region, while civilian evacuation convoys clogged narrow roads to the west. The toll was staggering. In under 6 hours, Russia inflicted more damage on Kurakov's defenses than any assault since 2022. For Moscow, it was a calculated gamble to overwhelm Ukraine with shock and sheer steel before the West could mount a meaningful counteroffensive. But what the Kremlin couldn't foresee was that their brutal opening strike was about to awaken something far more dangerous, waiting just over the horizon. As Russian armor ground deeper into Kurakov's ravaged defenses, the long-threatened U.S. response finally arrived. Not with infantry on the ground, but with precision and shock from thousands of miles away. At 9:42 a.m. local time, U.S. geosynchronous orbit satellite constellations locked onto Russian command vehicles and field ammo depots. Within minutes, U.S. intelligence teams relayed coordinates to forward HIMARS batteries, positioned just 22 miles from Ukraine's front line. These launchers, equipped with newly arrived ATACMS Block 2, missiles carried warheads designed to scatter 300 submunitions over a kill zone the size of a football field. As the first pulse, the ATACMS missiles streaked low across the horizon at Mach 3, then erupted above a cluster of Russian Tornado S reload vehicles, saturating the area with a rain of steel. In a single strike, over a dozen Russian trucks and fuel carriers erupted into massive fireballs, sending shockwaves that rattled windows miles away. Secondary explosions from detonating ammunition raged for nearly 12 minutes. Farther east, Ukraine deployed U.S.-supplied Switchblade 600 drones, each carrying a 30-pound tandem warhead, specifically designed to penetrate advanced reactive armor. Operators guiding these kamikaze UAVs from hidden bunkers directed them into the turrets of T-90M tanks with pinpoint accuracy. Live drone footage captured the final seconds before impact, missile-shaped drones diving, stabilizer wings quivering. Then a flash of light and a column of black smoke rising. By 10:30 a.m., the Russian armored advance had stalled. Reports from frontline observers indicated at least 8 Russian tanks were downed by Switchblades within 45 minutes, often still smoldering on the roads they tried to hold. Meanwhile, HIMARS batteries shifted fire to Russian bridging equipment near the Vovcha River, cratering the riverbank and submerging several BMPs attempting to cross. Adding to the chaos, newly arrived AN/TPQ-50 counter-battery radars, among the most advanced in the world, detected the trajectories of Russian 152 mm artillery rounds and backtraced their launch points. Ukrainian M777 howitzers and French Caesar guns responded instantly, firing GPS-guided shells into Russian artillery positions, within 90 seconds of detection, wiping out at least 2 complete Russian gun batteries by mid-afternoon. By day's end, intercepted Russian communications painted a picture of panic. Commanders shouted over encrypted radio channels about fuel trucks that never arrived, about tanks trapped in minefields, with engines burning uncontrollably. All the while, U.S. satellite and signals intelligence fed Ukraine a live map of Russian positions an invisible hand guiding every counterstrike. For those on the ground, it no longer felt like Russia versus Ukraine alone. It was as if the hammer of American war technology had descended, guided with relentless precision, turning Moscow's best-planned spearhead into a blazing maze of debris. In your personal opinion, should the United States be involved in this war? If yes, leave a comment with #2. If no, leave #5. As the final echoes of HIMARS strikes faded over Kurakov's ravaged fields, Ukrainian ground commanders launched the next phase, a direct armored counterattack to shatter Russia's fractured spearhead. This was no reckless move. It was a carefully coordinated advance blending NATO tanks, advanced sensors, and the grit of traditional infantry. Leading the assault were Leopard 2 A6 tanks, German-made behemoths, with 120 mm smoothbore cannons, capable of penetrating nearly 800 mm of rolled homogeneous steel from 2 miles away. They advanced cautiously, maintaining a distance of 1,300 feet from suspected Russian kill zones, using advanced thermal imaging to scan for muzzle flashes and heat signatures in the scorched tree lines. Flanking both sides were Swedish CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles carrying infantry teams armed with Javelin and NLAW anti-tank missiles. These vehicles moved with almost eerie coordination, advancing to the edges of burned-out farmsteads, deploying infantry, who immediately dug in with portable launchers aimed at every hedgerow and crossroads. At 11:52 a.m., the first engagement erupted. A Russian Terminator fire support vehicle bristling with autocannons and anti-tank missiles swiveled its turret to target a pair of CV-90s. But seconds before it could fire, a Javelin team concealed in a collapsed grain silo launched a shot. The missile arced upward nearly 500 feet before slamming down, striking the Terminator's turret crown. The ensuing explosion sent the Terminator's turret hatches skyward, flames erupting like a furnace chimney. Meanwhile, the Leopards opened fire, their 120 mm rounds traveling at over 700 feet per second, turned T-80s into twisted steel husks in seconds. Gunners used millimeter-wave radar paired with laser rangefinders to adjust each shot, punching through reactive armor like it was paper. Observers reported at least 5 Russian tanks destroyed in the first 20 minutes of combat, many still burning with ammunition cook-offs, sending turrets flying yards from their hulls. Adding to the chaos, rear-line HIMARS systems switched to firing GMLR's cluster munitions, each rocket dispersing 182 bomblets across 2 football fields directly onto Russian reserve armored forces, attempting to regroup near a dirt road east of the town. Drone footage showed dozens of Russian vehicles veering off the road, some plunging into ditches in a desperate bid to escape the invisible storm. By early afternoon, the ground north of Kuracov was littered with charred wrecks. The Russian advance was not just stalled, but forced into a bloody retreat under relentless crossfire from Ukrainian and NATO hardware. And just like that, every tank destroyed, every BMP wrecked, all coordinated through live data streams from drones and encrypted data links, turning Ukraine's counteroffensive into a masterclass in 21st century mechanized warfare. Ready to see how tech flipped this battle on its head? Stay tuned. By mid-afternoon, Russia's battlefield gamble crumbled under a new kind of assault they couldn't even see. High above the smoke-choked skies of Donetsk, a U.S. EC-37B Compass call loitered, flooding the air with powerful electronic jamming waves. Entire swaths of Russian communications went dark. Tank commanders trying to coordinate movements found their encrypted radios hissing with nothing but static. At the same time, Ukraine's ground-based NASAMS radars directly linked to U.S. satellite data streams sprang into action. As Russian attack helicopters, a squadron of Mi-28 Havocs and Ka-52 Alligators swooped low to strike Ukraine's flank. NASAMS locked on. Within seconds, two AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles slammed into their rotors, sending burning wreckage spiraling into the treetops. Closer to the ground, RQ-20 Puma drones silently circled above ridgelines, scanning for heat signatures from idling tanks. The moment they spotted Russian armor clustered near a collapsed rail yard, coordinates flashed to concealed Javelin and NLAW teams. In under 3 minutes, missiles sliced through the air, erupting into blinding fireballs that sent black smoke coiling skyward. By 5:00 p.m., Russia's once proud assault force was fragmented and blinded. Field reports indicated over 50% of surviving Russian armored crews had shut down their engines entirely, hoping to evade thermal sensors. They hunkered in their metal coffins, stripped of situational awareness, awaiting orders that never came. It was a battlefield no longer decided by brute force, but by who controlled the data. And in that moment, Ukraine and its Western allies owned every bite. By dawn the next day, the Kuracov battlefields looked like a graveyard of modern armor. Scorched T-90Ms lay with turrets blown off their interiors, charred beyond recognition. Ukrainian recovery teams counted at least 9 T-90Ms, 6 T-80 BVMs, 7 Terminators, and over 15 BMPs destroyed, alongside piles of rifles and Russian gear abandoned in panic. The estimated Russian casualties painted an even grimmer picture: over 300 soldiers killed or wounded in under 48 hours. Many were left behind in the chaos, as support vehicles were obliterated by HIMARS or fled without orders. Drone footage captured entire columns of Russian armor reversed and trapped in cratered terrain engines, dead crews hiding inside to avoid prowling Switchblade drones. But the material losses told only half the story. The psychological blow was devastating. Russian families in Voronezh, Belgorod, and Rostov began demanding answers why so many sons weren't coming home, why Moscow's vaunted armored formations were shredded by a smaller force wielding Western tech. Even Kremlin-friendly media couldn't fully suppress leaked videos of burning wreckage and intercepted Russian radio calls filled with chaos and fear. For Ukraine and its allies, the message was clear. Modern warfare doesn't belong to whoever has the most tanks, but to whoever sees first, strikes first, and coordinates best. With U.S. satellites, counter-battery radars, precision-guided missiles, and swarms of drones, Ukraine turned Russia's biggest assault in months into a catastrophic lesson. Any nation that ignores the shift in modern warfare courts its own peril. In the fields of Donetsk, that truth was written in steel and fire. As the dust finally settled in Kuracov, the story of this clash was etched in blackened tank husks, scorched earth, and hundreds of Russian lives cut short. Despite Russia's overwhelming mass of steel and explosive power, It was outmatched by an alliance of technology real-time intelligence and Ukraine's disciplined resolve. In under 48 hours, a combination of US-supplied ATACMS missiles, Switchblade drones advanced counter-battery radars, and NATO tanks turned Russia's sledgehammer blow into a humiliating defeat. This battle proved an unforgiving lesson. Raw numbers no longer dictate victory. In modern warfare, triumph belongs to those who see first, think faster, and coordinate through satellites, data links, and drone swarms with a precision that old doctrines can't match. Beyond the battlefield, Kuracov sent shockwaves through Russia itself. Families demanded accountability. Generals scrambled for explanations, and Kremlin propagandists were forced to spin tales against undeniable satellite imagery. Meanwhile, Ukraine, backed by the quiet but immense power of the West, stood firm, its soldiers weary but unbroken, their defensive lines intact. This wasn't just a local counteroffensive. It was a stark warning to any nation underestimating the lethal blend of technology and grit in 21st century conflict. This battle proved an undeniable truth in modern warfare. Technology, intelligence, and precise coordination are the keys to victory, not the sheer number of tanks or missiles. With American support, Ukraine turned Russia's steel spearhead into a costly lesson written in fire and smoke. But what do you think? Will technology continue to shape the future of warfare? Or does raw power still have a place? And should the US get more deeply involved in this conflict? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping military analysis like this. See you in the next video.